All right, as we get started, go and have your financial literacy supplements open to page 6. Financial literacy supplements open to page 6. Kind of short homework assignment this time. We'll take a look at that in just a moment. But first, want to review some things we talked about in our last few lessons. We talked last lesson about another way of making money. Now, in general, making money, class, is called income. Money that you earn is called income as a general term. And there's lots of different ways you can earn income. But yesterday we looked specifically at people who are in sales, and they get a portion of the sales they're responsible for. They get a percentage of the sale, so to speak. And what is that form of income? A percentage of sales. Bryson? So you're a car salesman, you sell a car. Obviously the dealership makes most of the money, but you get a little piece of that for yourself. No? Luciana? Commission. What is it, Bryson? Commission. Now, Bryson mentioned wages. What is a wage, or what are wages? How do those work? Someone besides Kirsten. Someone besides Luciana. Sorry, Kirsten, yes.
Like being paid hourly?
Being paid hourly. Being paid for every hour that you work. So if you're paid a percentage, Bryson, that's commission. If you're paid for every hour, that's wages. Now, the hourly wages, we said, go up to how many total hours worked, Ben? 40. If you work more than that, you get overtime. And what is that little phrase we use to describe overtime pay? Do you remember?
It's half of the...
Yeah, what's the little phrase, though, Griffin?
Wait,
Anyone?
Time and a half.
Time and a half. There we go, Kirsten. Time and a half. But you got the half part, right? So you basically would multiply the wage by half again, or by 1.5, and that's the wages you earn for all hours you work after 40. Another way people get paid, another way they make money, is if they're in a service type occupation and they wait on you, or they take care of something for you, they do some service for you, you might, in addition to paying for the service, you might also leave them a tip, right? And of course, as Christians, right, we want to make sure we have a good testimony, so we want to make sure we leave a good tip, also leave a tract. I will say this, if you leave a lousy tip, don't leave a tract. But leave a good tip, especially if the service is really good. Be sure to be appreciative and leave a good tip. Anyone know what a standard tip is these days? A standard percent tip.
10%?
Oh, no, that would be a really low tip. Yes. 15 was standard when I was in school. That's actually what I was taught, was 15%. It's actually higher now. I don't know why, but they decided it's higher. 20. Not quite there. 18. 18% is the standard tip. So if you look at the bottom of a receipt, if you go to a restaurant, and usually your parents are paying, but as you get older, usually they'll even print for you what 18%, 20% would be. I usually try to go about 20% because the math is easier, right? Divide by 5. Because 20%, 0.2, 1/5. So basically just take my total, roughly, divide roughly by 5, and roughly what I get is the tip I leave. So that way if I'm a little, if my rough rounding has got me a little low, I'm still at the 18 mark, right? So, but I usually try to do about 20%. If it's really good service, I'll go upwards of 25% tip. And usually leave a little note on the receipt, because you have to sign the receipt anyway for your credit card. It's like, thank you, or thanks for great service. Just leave something and then leave a tract with it, right? Opportunity to share the gospel, have a great testimony. So tips, another way of making money. Another way that's not as common is if you complete certain tasks and you get paid for every task that gets completed. What do we call that, Joel?
Wages?
It's kind of like wages, a special type of wage though. Luciana? Piecework wages. What is it? Piecework. It's like you complete a piece or a task that you're supposed to complete. And then the last way is probably the easiest one as far as planning your finances as an adult one day. And that is if you just get paid a certain amount every month, or rather maybe a certain amount per year, you agree, sign off on the dotted line, you're going to pay me this much. And then, of course, it gets divided up either monthly or semi-monthly. What's that called, Joel? Salary. We get paid a set amount. Now, the person who hires you is your employer. That's the one who pays you. And then you, if you are hired by someone else, you class are the
employee.
Now, again, the money you earn in general is called income. The specific amount that you earn is referred, not the amount you get to keep, by the way, just the amount that you've worked for and earned is called your
gross pay.
Gross pay, your gross wages or your gross salary, whatever, gross pay in general, right? But there are class deductions, taxes and fees and dues and contributions toward this and that and the other. And so there's deductions that come out of your pay. And then at the end of the paycheck, it actually tells you how much you actually get to keep, which is usually considerably lower than the gross pay you've earned and worked for. What do we call the pay you get to keep then, after all the deductions?
Net pay.
Net pay. And it's very simple math, right? Once you find the gross pay, subtract the deductions away, and there's your net pay. All right, so we'll get into that a little bit here. Let's take a look at your homework now from last night. Page 6 in your supplement. Excelente. Good. Bueno. Let's go through this top row. Just call them out. Class a day equals
24 hours.
24 hours. Yard equals
5,280.
3 feet. 1 yard equals 3 feet. A quart equals how many pints?
4.
2 pints. 4 quarts in a gallon. 2 pints in the quart. Ooh, it's been a while. Next row going across. A miles. How many yards?
1,760.
1,760. A tablespoon. How many teaspoons?
3.
3. A minute equals
60
seconds. Next row. A pound equals
16.
16 ounces. Here's a tough one. A peck equals
8.
8 quarts. Might have had to look that up. A yard equals
36.
36 inches. 3 feet, but 36 inches. A bushel equals, next row,
4.
4 pecks. A ton equals
2,000.
2,000 pounds. And a pint equals
2.
2 cups. Very good. Now, I told you yesterday, as we get ready to look at this chart at the bottom, a phrase, a sentence to remember, to tell you how to lay out any problem involving commission. Anyone remember the sentence without flipping back to the previous page, what I told you to write down? Kirsten already flipped over, but go and tell us, Kirsten.
Part of commissions is rate of sales.
Commission, if I can spell it, is rate of sales. And you will plug in the numbers you know, and what you don't know, you just write what. So as we look at the first thing, do we know the sales on the first problem in the chart class?
Yes.
Yeah, we know it's $4,500 or $4,500. And do we know the rate?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, we know it's 5% of that. And what, this is the commission we're finding, is 5% of 4,500. What do we have to do to find 5% of 4,500, Joel?
You multiply 0.05.
Just multiply by 0.05, because we know both sides of the word of. Another way to think of it is you divide if you know the first number. If you know this, you can either divide by that or divide by that. But we don't divide, we multiply. And when we multiply, Joel, what do we get for our answer?
$225.
$225. Look at the next one. Same basic layout, but this time, class, the sales are only
$600.
$600. And this person's rate of commission is
8.5%.
be lazy here. 8.5%. So we're going to end up doing what here, Corey?
Multiply
By
0.085.
0.085. Good. Remember, go boink, boink. So 0.085. And what is the commission this time, Corey?
$51.
$51. Looking at the next one. Wow, $75,900. And that's a high commission rate. I think it's a little unrealistic, but that's okay. 10% rate of commission. Again, plug in the sales, plug in the percent, you multiply. What do you get, Bryson?
759. Or 7,500.
There we go, $7,590. Make sure we place that comma there after the 7. $7,590. For the next one, $7,820. We're up to a 12% rate of commission, which again I think is unrealistic. I don't know of many jobs where you get that high of a rate. What's the amount of commission here, Ben?
$938
Dollars.
and 40 cents.
There we go, $938.40. All 4 of those, you're finding the amount of commission. You just multiply rate times sales. How many got 4 for 4 on those first 4? All right, now, the next 2, you have to change up the strategy because there's something we're not told. And this time, for the next to bottom one, we're told the sales amount. So we're told it's $140,000. Maybe this is the sale of a house. And we're told that this realtor, for instance, gets $3,500 of commission. And we're trying to find the percent. What do I do for this one, Griffin?
Divide.
Divide. What goes on top, what goes on bottom?
The 14,000. Well, the 140,000 goes on top.
Oh, the pain, the pain. Remember, the first number in the lineup, right? Anytime we have a percent problem, if you're given the starting number, that always goes on top. If you need to divide by the percent or by the other, the second number always goes under if you lay it out this way. So the 140,000 should go underneath. All right, so that's going to be a problem. So make sure we put it underneath. Otherwise, you're going to get some crazy percent that's not even a percent. Now, Griffin, let's take this, but we don't want to divide by these numbers because they're huge. How can I easily make these numbers smaller, just like that?
Take away 2 zeros out of both.
There we go. At least knock off 2 zeros. And even then, I could also divide 35 and 1,400 by what?
7.
So let's get the top number down to a
5.
And then if I divide 1,400 by 7, I would get
7. No,
14 divided by 7.
200,
right? 1,400 divided by 7 would be 200. If I wanted to, I could even divide that by 5 if I wanted to.
1 and 40.
There we go, 1/40. And then I could make that work out there. 1/40. Remember, the top number goes in the house, the bottom number goes outside. Again, you didn't necessarily have to do any of this reducing here. How many times would 4 go into 10, Griffin?
2.
2. Now, there's 2 digits here, so it's actually going to go here. So we actually fill in a 0 here. 2 times 40,
80.
80. When we subtract, we get 20, bring down another 0. There, 4 goes into 20.
5 times.
5 times. That's going to work out to the even 200. Now, that's 0.025. I want it to be a percent, so I have to go
Point, point.
boink, boink, and we get what for our answer?
2.5%.
2.5%. Now, I will throw this thought out there. If you get here, remember, class, percent means hundreds. This is 200. I don't want 200. I want 100. If I cut this in half, I get 100. But what do I get when I cut 5 in half, class? 2.5. And there's my 2.5 hundredths, 2.5%. So there was a little bit of a shortcut we could have used and saved the division. Either way, 2.5%, 2.5%. How many got that answer? Okay, questions on that? Did anyone get 40? All right, be careful, because that was actually, if you divide it upside down, you would get 40, but that would have to go boink, boink. That would be 4,000% commission. That's because you did it upside down, right? So just be careful, make sure the first number goes on top. Same setup on the next problem where we're finding sales. I know the commission is $2,100, and we know that's supposed to be 7% of sales. I just don't know what the sales are. How do I set up the division problem? Joel?
You divide 7% by
What goes on top, what goes on bottom?
7 goes on the top.
The first number right here, that always goes on top. Commission always goes on top if you're finding the other. Always, in any percent problem, the percentage goes on top of the percent or the base, or in this case, the rate or the sales. So I'm just going to go and take that and go on the bottom. What do I write on the bottom here, Joel?
7%.
But I don't do with percents. I always make percents.
Decimal.
So let's make it a decimal.
0.07.
0.07. I'm too lazy to write the first zero, so just 0.07. But class, can I actually divide by a decimal? No. So I'm going to have to go boink, boink. And if I do it on the bottom, class, so when I go boink, boink on the top, this thing becomes huge. It becomes a 210,000 divided by 7. Well, class, how many times 7 go to 21?
3.
3. Nothing left over, right? So what's my answer?
30,000.
30,000. And so $30,000 worth of sales would be needed to make 7% commission equal $2,100. Anyone have $30,000? Okay, good. Now, the way we would say this is we divide 2,100 by 0.07. Divide top by bottom is the way we'd say it out loud. Look at 2,100 on top, 7 on the bottom. Flip back, if you would, to page 5. We talked through problem 7 and problem 8. We talked through problem 7. We talked through problem 8. We didn't have time to work them last lesson. Take just a few minutes to work problems 7 and 8 now. Take just a couple moments to work problem 7 and problem 8 there at your seats. We'll go over them in about 4 minutes. Give about 2 minutes per problem. I mean, you're going to be finding something other than commission. So you're going to have to write out that commission is rate of sales and be careful with your dividing. Yes, ma'am.
Am I allowed to take off zeros, like for the percent when I make it into a decimal? If there's zeros left on the commission, can I take off zeros and then what?
If I've shown you can knock off zeros, then yes.
Okay.
I will be sure to mention that when we go over it. Yeah, any shortcuts I taught you at the beginning of the year, you can always use. That's why I taught them. You could have extra paper out where you can work these on separate paper. So there's not a lot of room to work here in the supplement. Class, on number 7, where do I write the $3,000?
Oh, wait.
Or,
Commission.
Where it says commission, right? He needs to earn $3,000 in commission this month, so commission is the $3,000. Then where do I put the 4%, class?
Rate.
Because it says his rate is 4%. And then it says, what should his total sales be? So where it says sales, I should write what? Or you could put a question mark, or if you wanted to think algebraically, you could put an X there. Whoa. All right, so 3,000 is 4% of what? All right, how do I set this problem up, Bryson? 3,000 on the top.
Or 0.045.
0.04 on the bottom. But I don't want the decimal, so after I put 0.04, then I go point, which basically adds 2 zeros here and takes it down to a 4. Now we can say 4 goes into 30 class 7 times. How many left over? 2. 4 goes into 20 5 times. How many left over?
0.
None. So I just need to put 0, 0, 0. So what must his sales be, class? $75,000. There we go. How many had $75,000 for number 7? Questions on 7. Number 8. This one's kind of interesting. Read it out loud for us if you would, please. I know we looked at it just at the end of the hour yesterday, but read it again anyway if you would. Corey?
Melissa Gray earned $2,600 this month, including her base salary of $1,500. Find Melissa's amount of commission.
All right, let's stop there. Do you remember from yesterday, she earned $2,600. That should have been her gross pay, right? But her salary is only $1,500 of that. So then what must her commission have been, Corey?
1,500.
No, that was her pay. That was her salary. She gets paid just for showing up to work, $1,500. If she wants to make more than that, which she does, she's got to earn commission. Well, apparently, if she earns $2,600, how much commission must she have earned?
1,100.
$1,100. How many remember, and we looked at this yesterday, but that the commission must have been $1,100 since the first $1,500 was all just salary. Does that make sense? Now, if she was earning tips, we would say, well, the tips must have, that's a lot of tips. But whatever extra pay must have come from something else. In this case, it sounds like it came from commission. And number 2 says, if she was responsible for $22,000 in sales, where do I put that?
At the sales.
At sales. We know her sales were $22,000. It says find her rate of commission. So class, where it says rate, I can put question mark. Okay? So $1,100 is whatever of $22,000. How do I set this problem up? What do I need to do? Griffin?
1,100 over the 22,000.
100 over the 22,000. Where, to speed up my work class, knock off? Zeros. And so when I set up my division, or you know what, I bet I could divide out something from both top and bottom class.
11.
If you divide 11 out of 11, you just get
1.
1. If I divide 11 out of 20 to 20, 11 into 22,
2.
and 11 into 0.
0.
Oh, wait a second. We're finding a rate, right? We're finding a percent. Percent means hundreds. Instead of doing division, I could just turn this into a denominator of 100. Multiply top and bottom class by 5. I think 5 $20 bills makes 100. 5 hundredths class, what's the rate?
5.
5%, because percent means hundreds. Or again, if you say, that confuses me, Mr. Dasky, put the 11 on the top, put the 220 on the outside, and set up your zeros. 2 goes into 11 how many times, class? 2 goes into 11, class?
2. I mean, 0.
5 times 2 goes into 11. If you have $11
Oh, 1.
and you want to buy candy bars that cost $2 each, you could buy 5 candy bars. They're a little overpriced, but whatever, you could buy it. So 2 goes into 11, class. 5 times 1, 2, 3 digits, 1, 2, 3 digits. Put the 5 here, set it in 0. 5 times nothing? None. 5 times 2? 10. Carry the 1. 5 times 2 plus 1.
11.
And you'd still get the 5%, right? Boing, boing, 5%. So again, you don't have to do the reducing and the making denominator 100 if that confuses you. But most of you who were here back then should be good with that. How many got 5% commission on 8? All right. Look over page 7 now. Let's get into today's material. And once you've made money, the question is, what do you do with it? Do you stuff it in your mattress? Yes. Some people used to do that. They were a little paranoid. I don't think that's best, though, because if your house caught fire, your mattresses go up in flames very quickly, I'm told. And if the money's in there, your money is gone. So doing that, probably not a good idea. Probably most people, they keep their money in a bank or in a credit union. Okay, so there's credit. How many have heard of a credit union before? It's kind of like a bank, very similar in that regard. So banks, credit unions, that's where money normally gets kept. Now, there are different ways in which the money can be stored at your bank. One of the ways is you keep your money in what's called a checking account. How many have heard of a checking account before? How many have ever seen your mom or dad write a check before? Okay, checking accounts are the accounts in which you could write checks. Now, people don't write checks much anymore, to be fair, but I got the name because back in the day, if you didn't have cash, and this is maybe before credit cards were widespread, people would write checks. And they would write out a check, and a check simply told the bank, hey, pay this much money from my checking account to this other guy, okay, or this business or whatever. There's also accounts called savings accounts. How many of you have a savings account at a bank? Your parents have set something up for you, put some money in there. Okay, savings accounts, another way in which you can put money in the bank. Those accounts, generally, you don't access very often. That money's kind of there for later. You can get to it if you need to, but it's generally saved for later. Saved for emergencies. In your case, probably saved for college one day, or saved for maybe a car or some major purchase you're going to have to make. Money that's kept in the bank can earn what's called interest. We're going to talk about this a little bit more tomorrow, but as long as the money sits there, the bank pays you a little bit of money every month just for holding on to your money for you. Just a little bit. Not much, admittedly, but a little bit of interest. That's money that you can make just for keeping your money in the bank. Now, credit unions oftentimes offer a little bit better interest rate than a bank would. Not all the time, but oftentimes they do. Credit unions, you have to be a member. Okay, bank, you just are a customer. They call you a member when you go to a credit union. The money that's at the bank is insured by the federal government. Okay, how many have ever maybe seen a commercial for a bank or whatever, and you say the FDIC, member FDIC? Anyone ever heard that? Or maybe as you drive by the bank, there's a little sticker in the window that says FDIC. Like, what is that? Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. They insure your money up to $250,000. Now, if you keep more than $250,000 in the bank and something happens, you're only insured up to that much. Same thing with credit unions. They're not with FDIC, they're with National Credit Union Association, NCUA. And so you'll see that in the little sidebar of the teller's window or whatever. And so the money's kept there in checking accounts, savings accounts. Now, as we read here, most day-to-day transactions are done with money kept in a checking account. The money that's put into your checking account is there for you to spend. Okay? Now, the money in the savings account, again, generally don't touch it. Checking account, that's your day-to-day money. And so if you write a check, it comes out of the checking account. How many of you, your parents have a bank card? It has a little, looks like a credit card, but has the name of the bank on it instead. Okay, it's called a debit card. If you swipe a debit card or tap a debit card nowadays or insert the debit card, right, that takes money out of the checking account. Oftentimes, people will pay their bills. Mom and dad will pay bills, and they'll have something set up where the power company every month takes their power bill directly out of the checking account. Okay, so checking accounts are for your day-to-day transaction. Couple key terms we need to understand. When you put money into an account, whether it's savings or checking, though admittedly, usually with checking, when you put money into an account, that's called a deposit. Question? You're going to try to answer it. When you put money into the account, class, it's called a deposit. You make a deposit, that's putting money into your account. If you take money out of your account, that's called a withdrawal. Okay, a withdrawal is taking money out. You withdraw the money. So class, money in,
Deposit.
money out,
Withdrawal.
withdrawal. Different ways in which you can put money into the account. For instance, if somebody gives you a check for your birthday, how many of you like it when you open birthday cards, there's cash inside? Anyone ever open a birthday card, there's a check inside? All right, they were a lot more common when I was a kid. Every now and then my kids will still get a check. It doesn't happen very often. But that check, you take it to the bank and you say, hey, I want to deposit this money into my account. Okay? Your mom and dad probably, when they get paid, they either get a check from their employer or the money may go directly into their account with what's called an electronic funds transfer. You see that term in bold there, an EFT. So money can go directly there. Direct deposit, sometimes you'll hear it referred to, right? Where your mom and dad work and they don't have to go to the bank with their check. The money just automatically goes in. For me, yesterday was payday. So my paycheck, I looked at my bank account online yesterday. Boom, the money was there. Just went in automatically. Awfully nice. So Deposits, you put money in. How many rolled coins? Anyone ever see like a roll of pennies, roll of quarters, okay, those things there. Take it to the bank. You can deposit that money into your account rather than taking it to the Coinstar machine at Walmart where you dump all the coins and it makes a loud racket. And, your account never matches theirs, right? You feel like, I know I had like $60 worth of coins and they only said I had 58. I don't know, whatever. Put the money in. Again, you can deposit those things at the bank. How many have been with your parents when they've gone to the bank? Any of you ever gone inside a bank and walked up to the counter and actually talked to a live person? How many go through the drive-thru and there's that big glass window with the lady sitting there with a microphone? And how many have ever done the thing where they shoot it up the tubes? We love the tubes, right? Now, don't put rolled coins in the tubes, okay? Because all it is a blast of air that pushes the little container up, and it's not strong enough to push rolled coins. So don't put rolled coins in the tubes. They hate that. Okay, it makes the little things get stuck. But if you have rolled coins, now if you go right next to the window, there's that little drawer that kind of slides out. You put rolled coins there, or walk into the bank with those. But checks you can deposit. If you get a large sum of cash and you're like, yeah, I don't want to be carrying $300 in cash. Let me put that in the bank where it's safe and insured by the government, and I will use it as I need it later. So anyway, depositing, that's putting money in. How about taking money out? Well, a debit card transaction, that bank card transaction at Walmart or wherever you go shopping and they tap that card, that's a debit card transaction. That's a withdrawal. Going to the ATM, right? Where you drive up there and they pull cash out, right? Slide the card in, tell how much money they want out. And that ATM stands for automated teller machine. A teller is the person who works at the bank. I think the idea is they would tell you how much you have. Anyway, I guess that's where the term came from. But anyway, they tell you, or you tell them, hey, I want this much money, and they tell you, here you go. I don't know. But a teller is a person that works at the bank counter. Automated teller machine, it's like a person, but without the interaction. You don't actually have to say hi and smile. It's much less personal. Some people, that's like, yes, I don't want to talk to anybody. Others like, I want people. I'm going in the bank. Totally up to you. But pulling money out, that's a withdrawal. Writing a check is a withdrawal from your account. Now, here's the deal. You have a certain amount of money in the bank. Don't try to take more out than you have in. Does that make sense? But as you take the money out, you no longer have the same amount you had before. If you put a deposit in, that increases the money you have. The money that you have in the bank at any given time is referred to as the balance. Your bank balance or your account balance is the money that you currently have. Sometimes you'll hear it referred to as available balance. For instance, if you write a check, right, and it hasn't cleared yet, we're going to talk about clearing checks later, but the check hasn't cleared yet, then you might know the bank says I have this much, but I know I wrote a check for $50, so I actually have an available balance less than what the bank thinks I have. Okay, but the balance is how much money you have available to spend. Okay, we want that number to stay positive. Now, with that debit card, that bank card, it doubles as two things, right? You can use it at Walmart or Publix or Dick's Sporting Goods or wherever you go to shop, right? And but you also use it at the ATM, right? That's the card the parents stick in the ATM machine before they punch buttons and tell it how much money they want out. Again, it doesn't just spit out money. I think you all know this already, right? It doesn't just spit out money. Chloe might think it does. My little third grade, she might think money just comes out. Why don't you just go to the ATM and get money, Dad? Because it only gives you money if you have money, right? If I only have $200 in the bank account, I can't get out $500. It don't do that, okay? It only gives me what I got, okay? So when you go in there, though, have you noticed your parents push buttons? Or maybe when they tap the card, they have to push buttons? They're entering something called their PIN number. This isn't in there. If you want to write this in the side margin, you can. PIN, capital PIN, stands for Personal Identification Number. This is something you would want to keep secret. You also don't ever want to forget it, okay? So it must be something you will not forget, but it also must be something you don't have written down on you anywhere. Like if you lost your wallet and your PIN number was written right there with it, somebody could clean out your account super fast. They'd never know what happened. Can't get that money back. It's gone now, okay? So protect the PIN, right, at all costs, but make sure you don't forget it either. Let's take a look at some practice problems about this balance in our checking and savings accounts. Read number 1 for us, if you would, Luciana.
Faith Barb had a checking account balance of $79.30 before she made an ATM withdrawal of $40. Since she used out an hour's network ATM, she also paid a $3 fee. What is her balance now?
How many have ever been to Walmart or a place and there's an ATM right there in the store? Yeah, that ATM is not your bank's ATM, probably. If you use your bank's ATM, no big deal. You tell it how much money you want, it gives you money, we're good. But if you use somebody else's ATM to get money, you pay a fee for using what's called an out-of-network ATM. So that's what's going on with Faith. She needs 40 bucks, she needs it now, she's at the store, she needs her 40 bucks, she pulls out 40 bucks, but she also pays a $3 fee. So really, how much is coming out of her checking account, class?
$43.
$43. At your seats, figure out how much she has available to her. What is her balance now? And Ben, how much does Faith Bard have in her checking account now?
36.13.
Well, let's say it is money though.
$36.13.
There we go. How many? $36.13 for number one. Look at number two. Read that one for us, if you would, Joel.
Don Godwin had a savings account balance for $321.38 before having the IRS send his tax refund. $279.18 into the account of the
Via, meaning by means of.
via direct deposit. What is his balance now?
All right, so yeah, tax time is coming up soon. We're going to talk about taxes a little bit later on. But if you pay more taxes than you owe, the government will issue a refund when you file your taxes. And that's what's going on for Don Godwin. And when you file taxes, you can oftentimes tell them, hey, I want the refund directly sent to this bank account. Kind of like when the employer sends a paycheck. Well, Don Godwin wants his tax refund sent to his savings account. He already had $321.38 in there. The IRS, Internal Revenue Service, they're going to send more money via direct deposit and electronic funds transfer. So at your seats, find his balance. Again, with the deposit, does it add or subtract money, class?
Subtract.
Well,
Deposit adds money. Remember, a deposit is adding money, so don't subtract. Make sure you add. This is a good thing. We're adding money to his savings account. You can also have them take out. If you owe taxes, you can have them take out via direct withdrawal, but another electronic funds transfer. That's just depressing. And Kirsten, what you got for his new balance?
$600.56.
$600.56. How many had that answer? All right, questions on that? Let's take a look at number 3, and go ahead and read that for us, if you would. Bryson.
Jonathan Torres had a checking account balance of $680.45 on August 4th. On August 5th, he wrote a check for $58.13 to the Phoenix City Utilities. Find the current available balance.
I will say this, this is one of the few times I write a check anymore, right? If we told you checks just don't happen much. With the utility company in Phoenix City, if I wanted to use a credit card, they would charge a fee. I'm a tightwad, I don't want to pay a fee. If I wanted to walk down there and pay cash, I could, but I don't want to walk down there and pay cash. And I don't want to pay a fee and use a credit card. So the one way you dodge that is if you mail a check every month. And so instead of paying a $3 fee, you put a 60-cent stamp on there. You still lose some money. But anyway, so he wrote a check for $58.13. This is for his water bill, trash pickup, that kind of thing. What's his current available balance after he writes this check? How much does he have left in this checking account to spend? And Griffin, what you got?
$623.92.
Good. Make sure you write that down if you didn't have it yet. If you were still working on it, write this down. $623.92. We just subtract the check because a check is a form of class
Payment.
withdrawal. The check here in this case is a form of withdrawal, right? So we're going to subtract that from his balance. Okay, now make sure we've got number 3, $623.92, because number 4, Luciana.
On August 8th, State Farm automatically withdrew $112.50 from Mr. Torres' car insurance and EFT. What is the updated available balance?
All right, EFT, electronic funds transfer. State Farm every month just takes the money out of his account. So they took out $112.50, a withdrawal. So now what's his available balance? We're kind of tracking his balance as he makes different transactions. Where are we at now? Again, with withdrawals class, we subtract. And what do we got now, Bryson?
$511.42.
How many have the $511.42? If you didn't have that, go and write that number down. Make sure you got $511.42 because the next problem we continue tracking. Mr. Torres is spending. And go ahead and read this one for us, if you would. Corey.
On August 10th, Mr. Torres' employee deposited his weekly paycheck EFT of $423.19. That same day, he used his debit card at Walmart to pay $64.92 for groceries and other household needs. Find his new account balance.
Do you see, class? We've got two different things going on this day. First, he gets paid, right? Deposited, class. That number means we're going to add that number. But then he goes to Walmart and uses his debit card to pay, class. That's going to be a withdrawal, right? It's going to be a debit card withdrawal. So we're going to have to do two different things on number 5. So at your seats, track both of those. Deposit the paycheck, figure out what his balance is, and then take care of that debit card expenditure at Walmart. Answer to number 4 was $511.42, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we left him at $511.42 in his checking account. He's about to get paid, a deposit puts money in, but then he's going to go and spend money at Walmart, so that's going to take money out. So you're going to do two things to find the answer to number 5. There is. Yeah, this number. This is the running number. Yeah, this is where we left off. And now, he had this as of August 8th. 2 days later, doesn't say he spent anything else. So if this is where he left off, we then add that onto that. And then he spends that. Does that make sense? It's kind of a running problem here. All right, a couple of people already have the answer. We'll give just another moment to work. Corey, when we added his paycheck in with that deposit, what was his temporary balance before he stopped at Walmart?
$934.56.
61 cents maybe?
Yes.
$934.61, but then he turns around and goes to Walmart and he spends $64.92. So what's his balance at now, Kirsten?
$869.69.
There we go. How many ended up at an $869.69 when it was all said and done? All right, and this is the kind of thing that if you're wanting to track your balance, you could do. Now, I will say this. We live in the day of electronic banking. A better practice, an easier practice, to be honest, is just every day or every other day, check in on your bank account online or on the app, right? And look at your bank account balance, make sure everything looks good. Be careful with your spending, okay? But back in the old days, back when I was in school, we would have actually had to keep a written record. We had something called a checkbook register, and you would keep track of every little thing in there. Maybe your parents still do this or grandparents still do this just out of habit. You do that, all right? So maybe you don't have access and you're not allowed to get on the internet and check your account balance. You have to keep track of things a little more carefully. Look at number 6 and read this for us if you would, Jalen.
John Smith had a checking account balance of $218.32. He discovered a
He discovered. That would have been a great thing to discover, but he didn't. It's okay.
He received a $20 check for his birthday, which he deposited into his account. He also wrote a check for his vehicle
registration for $174.30. Find his new balance.
All right, so he had a certain balance, then he gets a check for his birthday. Woot, deposits that. Again, deposit class means you add money. But then he goes to the tag office, where the license plate, there's a little sticker you put on your license plate every year. Have you noticed that changes color every year and has a new year on it, tells you you're allowed to drive legally. And he has to pay $174.30 to drive legally. So he writes a check. Class, that's a withdrawal. So that number gets subtracted. So at your seats, find what his balance is now. He deposits $20 check, then he writes a check of his own to, Phoenix City tag office or whatever, $174.30. How much does he have now? And it's sadly not very much. Griffin?
$64.02.
$64.02. Hopefully he doesn't need to buy very many groceries before his next payday. How many has $64.02? Do we feel good about deposit versus withdrawal? When to add, when to subtract? That makes sense? All right, now look at the next thing, because I mentioned you don't want to spend more than you have. But this can happen sometimes if you write a check and forget you wrote it. For instance, this happened to me just this last month. We had to register my kiddos for the next upcoming school year. And so I had cash to pay for one of the kids, and then I wrote a check for the other two, $75 a kid. So I wrote a check for $150. I forgot I'd written the check. And so when I was paying my other bills, I took my account balance down to just about $100, a little over $100, paying my bills. And then the check went through. I didn't have $150. Well, the bank will take care of that for you, but then they charge what's called an overdraft fee. Look at that little blurb above number 7. If a person attempts to withdraw or spend more money than is available in his checking account, his attempt may be denied. The bank may just say, we ain't paying that. We're going to talk about bounced checks later. But in some cases, really frankly nowadays in most cases, the bank will cover the charge, but will charge him an overdraft fee. Class, what do you get charged if you spend more than you got?
Overdraft.
Overdraft fee. A person who overdrafts will have a negative checking account balance. So let's look at number 7. Sarah Lee. This is not the lady who bakes the really good pies and cakes. Sarah, or bread, but nobody doesn't like her. Sarah Lee had $138.97 in her checking account. She wrote a check for $100 to a friend, but forgot about this check. That's where checks will get you. A few days later, she used her debit card at Publix to pay for $56.34 worth of groceries. Well, class, how much has she spent now?
100. Wait, 100.
Between the check and Publix, she spent how much?
$156.34.
She done spent $156.34, hadn't she? She didn't have that much in her account, did she? So some banks would have declined the transaction, but her bank paid it for her, and charged her $30 overdraft fee. What is Sarah's current account balance? We're going to go into the negatives here. So let's take this class. She had, and we're going to use a positive number to represent what she had. She had positive $138.97, right? She's trying to spend, we're going to call this negative, $156.34, right? So, since the signs are different, we subtract and keep the sign of the greater absolute value, don't we? So let's do a little subtraction. Let's borrow 14 minus 7. Let's borrow 12 minus 9.
3.
Don't lose your decimal. Let's borrow 15 minus 8. 7. And 4 minus 3 is 1. So she's at negative $17.37, right? But then the bank says, nope, we helped you out covering your overdraft. We're charging you a fee. The bank charges her a $30 fee. Well, is that positive or negative, class?
Negative.
That's negative. That's taking more money out of her account. Another negative $30. Well, now the signs are the same. If the signs are the same,
Add and keep
the signs. So now we're going to add, class.
7, 3, 7, 4.
So what's her account balance now?
Negative $47.37.
In other words, if she deposited $50, she wouldn't have $50. She'd have about $2.63.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a bad state of things.
So,
So anyway, yeah, I gotta watch out for those overdraft fees, because you're already in the negative, so you're already feeling bad about being negative, and they stick you with that fee too. It's a sad life. Your homework this evening is to do page 8. Page 8, you got some homework questions to fill in and some homework problems to work as well. Take a look at that. Make sure you're studying over terms. Make sure you're studying over these terms, being familiar with them. Also, tomorrow you're going to be allowed to use a calculator. So I would encourage you to bring one with you to class. It'll make some of your calculations a lot quicker and easier. Again, doesn't have to be a fancy scientific calculator, just a basic calculator. Page 8, the homework, bring a calculator tomorrow. Make sure you study terms. When the bell rings, you are dismissed.